Hello, my friend, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Fool Writes Again, the podcast where I, Jinx, your host and imaginary friend, answers the burning question of what happens when you release a writer into the wild and he gets a chance to explore the world. So have you ever been interested in where a writer finds inspiration for plot development, world building, character creation, or even character motivation, then this is the podcast for you, so please stay tuned. With that being said, on this week's episode, Jinx will continue answering the question of what happens when you release a writer into the wild and he gets the chance to explore the world of music festivals. And don't be alarmed, but this is the final episode in that series, and this one will specifically be related to finding character motivation. So, hopefully you enjoy it. And starting off this episode, I have a couple scenarios for us. Imagine you're an individual who got conned into going to a music festival. You had made a bet with your buddy that if he came back with a truly unique item from trading a paperclip, that you would go to the festival with him the next time he chose one. And he won, you lost, because he came back with an amazing trinket that started out as a paperclip. So what happens next? Not quite the scenario for you? How about this one? You are tired of traveling alone, and you're just lonely going about life and experiencing different things like this. And you were talking to one of your coworkers, and they truly believe that you are going to find your significant other at a music festival, because that is the only place that someone will match up with you. And you have another friend out there who regularly hosts concerts at their place and other venues around town, and they have promised to bring you up on stage to auction you off to the fans. You don't really want to do that, so you decide to go to a music festival to find love instead of being auctioned off to your town. What happens next? Neither of those quite your jam? How about this one? Imagine you're an individual who is dead set on creating a world record, and you think your best bet of that is to go to a music festival that has such a large crowd and participate in something. You've heard about festivals that have such a large number of people that are enjoying the music that they literally registered as an earthquake on the Richter scale. You've heard about festivals that have such a large mosh pit and wall of death that they have become known as the largest wall of death in the country. And you want to be part of one of those. You want to be such a fan of a band and festival that you are now registered as part of the largest orchestrated something in the world because you went to a music festival. What do you do and what happens next? Is that one not quite your jam? How about this one? You like music, and growing up, you didn't go to very many music shows, concerts, or festivals. In fact, by the time you were 25, you'd only gone to 3, and you decided you need to get that number up there. You need to raise it because that is a rookie number. So the next year, you decide you are going to double the number of concerts you've been to in a year. You've been to 3, so now you are going to go to 6 concerts this year. You reach your goal. The next year, you are going to double again. Instead of 6, you are going to go to 12. And then you double again. 12, 24. You've hit a point now where it's getting harder to double concerts because there's a lot of bands that you want to see, but you can't really afford, or they're not local, or it's not up your alley music-wise. And you think the only way to advance how many bands you've seen live is to start going to music festivals. So you start to say, I'm going to go to one festival this year. And you decide, I'm going to go to a new festival every year, a different one. You've been to enough of them, you are going to I'm going to double how many festivals I go to in a year. And I'm not going to double every year on festivals because that's a little pricey. But the next year, I'm going to add a third festival and a fourth festival. And eventually, you're just going to a festival each month because you enjoy it. What happens next? And now, because I'm being generous, I have another scenario for you. And this should be the last scenario for the episode. We'll see. But imagine you're an individual whose main drive is to travel and visit every country and state because it's a fantastic goal. But you don't want to just go to the state and drive through it or have a quick meal. You want to actually do something there. And you've traveled around most of the country already, and you're starting to get to the point where the only states left to go to are ones you don't really desire to go to because there's nothing going on. And you discover that these states have music festivals that are hosted there. And you think to yourself, I love music. I love that genre. I love festivals. And this gives me a fantastic reason to go to that state and finally cross it off my list of places to go. So you decide to buy tickets to the festivals in all those remaining states. And now you can cross off every state on your list because you've gone to a music festival. So what happens next there? All right, so I was correct. That's enough with the scenarios. Let's move on to the inspiration behind the scenarios. And simply put, the inspiration for all those scenarios came from, surprise, surprise, real life. When I started going to concerts years ago, I really had only been to about 3 concerts in my entire life. And I talked to other people and they started going to more concerts and seeing more bands than me, and I was jealous. So I decided I am going to double the number of concerts I've been to in a year. I went to 3 in my entire life, so then I started going to 6. And then I went to 12. And then it got crazy, and I just started going to concerts. I would go to any genre of concert, any band I could that was in the local area. So I started following every concert venue in the state. And when tickets went for sale, I would typically get them, especially if they were a really good price. And I got to the point where I was seeing over 100 bands a year just by going to random concerts. And I got to the point, I'm like, okay, it is time to step it up a notch and start going to festivals. And I chose a festival nearby and booked it. In fact, my first year after deciding to go to festivals, I booked 4 festivals in different states. And I went to them. And it was a blast. And currently my goal is to go to every festival. So I'm choosing a new one every year because I can't fund all the festivals in one year. But I might get to the point where I can go to 2 festivals in a year, 3 festivals. And those are eventual goals where I really am just traveling around the world, going to festivals, and that is life. That is my eventual goal. I told someone yesterday that if I could, I would live at a festival and live it up. So there is some little inspiration for those in my true life. The next scenario about finding love also comes from my life. And I exaggerated a little bit on that scenario, but I'm a writer. It's my right to exaggerate, especially if it's my own story. I had a coworker a couple years back, and we constantly were talking back and forth, especially whenever I came back from a new concert and festival, and she told me repeatedly that her vision and prophecy of my life is that I'm going to find true love at a festival. Because those are my people, and that is where I'm going to find someone that can match my energy. I'm like, okay, cool. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I like to think about it, and that thought itself creates interesting inspiration for a story, or why a character would go to a festival is because they were told they were going to find true love at said festival. The other half of that scenario, I do have a coworker that regularly puts on concerts in their backyard and in the surrounding area. And they have offered to pull me up on stage to auction me off. I've played around with the idea I have, don't get me wrong. But it's also very hard to want to get on stage when you are the only person being auctioned off. One day it might happen. Until then, I'm going to lean to the other coworker suggestion of finding true love at a festival. Maybe one day those two will align and I can get on stage at a festival, main stage, and be auctioned off into the entire crowd there. And there will be a couple of us, and it's not just some small band from the local area, but a super large band that's just headlining a 4-day festival with 100+ bands, and I get auctioned off during their set. Cool. That gives a unique reason for why someone would go to a festival. You can't give that reason to every single person unless that is a theme in your world, which you could make it be a theme. It'd be interesting that the only way that someone could find love in a world is to be auctioned off on stage in a festival. I have not read many stories like that, and I'm sure someone would enjoy a world where that was the case. So, why not use it? I don't mind. I haven't used it for a story, but I might use the initial idea of someone going to a band and a concert just to be auctioned off once, one random person. That could be motivation in anyone's story. It's unique, memorable, and life-changing. Moving along, I also have real life experience with the traveling aspect of it. If you've followed through with my series at all, you realize that I do like to travel. And since I've started recording these episodes and this entire podcast, I've been to a lot of different places. I've been to lots of different states. I have been to several different countries. So, surprise, surprise, one of my goals really is to be a person who has managed to travel to every state. And I don't want the reason I go to a state just to visit the airport or just driving through. I want an actual reason to be there. And when I went to Inkcarceration Music Festival, one of the main driving factors was it was in Ohio. I want to visit all the states, but I had no desire to go to Ohio. And then I saw a festival that takes place there, and lo and behold, I now have a reason to visit Ohio. I can go for a music festival / tattoo convention at a haunted prison, and I can spend several days there, and wow, I can now cross Ohio off my list of places to be and visit. And next year, when I choose my festival to go to, I can choose a festival at another location in a different state that I've never been to and cross that state off because I've now done something there. I went to another music festival. So a music festival is a great driving factor for a person who wants to travel and have a reason to travel. So why not include it? There's all sorts of motivation and reasons for someone to go to a festival. They can go looking for the love of their life. They can go because they're chasing a band and they've never seen said band live, and now they want to go visit and watch one set of said band. When I went to Sick New World last year, one of the reasons I wanted to go there was to see one band I had never seen live, Ice Nine Kills, and I could finally say, hey, I have seen said band because I went to a music festival to see said band. I can now cross off Ohio because that is a legit reason, because people want to visit states, but they want something to do. So music festival is a great driving factor for someone who wants to travel and visit somewhere. And now what have I included on these motivations? Love, travel, bands to see. There are lots and lots of reasons for people to visit a music festival. And those are all things you can include when you're writing your characters. Your MC, you have to be a little bit more specific on why they're going to the festival so they need a more detailed reason because they're the people you're following around. But your side characters could have actual reasons for why they would go to a music festival too. Are they following your MC there? Do they have the same reason as that person there? Did they lose a bet and now they're going with your MC because they are trying to keep him company? Do they not actually want to go to the festival and they're just bored? Are they stalking someone so they're going to the festival because they know someone's going to be at that festival? Or is your MC talking to a random background character about why the background character's at the festival? Is it because the background character is trying to travel across the country and now there is a random state to stay in at an RV park and they're camping there and it just happens to be with all the festival goers, so now they're at the festival enjoying more time in Ohio than they initially anticipated, but they're kind of stuck there. Or maybe they got reined in and they can't leave, and the festival is the only thing they can really do there. Lots of options. And when you're writing your characters, you just need to give them the variety of reasons for going to the festivals. As I mentioned in the last episode, there are so many people at a festival that it has to be a little diversified because every person there can't be there for the exact same reason. It doesn't make sense because that is not true life. You go to any festival and no one is there for the exact same reason. Sure, they may have a shared common interest, and that is to enjoy music. But then you're going to get the person at the festival that doesn't like the music. They're just there because they were dragged along. And now not every single person likes the music. Not every single person there is going to be interested in the exact same bands. It's not possible to see every band at a festival anyway. So is there motivation to see an individual band? Sweet. Include that. And every single person there can have motivation to see an individual band. That's fine. But make them all want to see different bands. Make them cherry pick what bands they can see. Do they have to see one of their favorite bands instead of another favorite band because they're playing at the exact same time? Make them have that dilemma. Because their motivation for going to the festival is to see bands and music, but now they actually have to also encounter real life struggles because they can't go to every band. And that makes it seem more real, and they're more realistic because they have true reasons and motivations for going where they are. They're now weighing the pros and cons of going to one band versus another band. Have they seen one band before, so they were willing to give up on that one band to see one they've never seen before? Or are they the individuals that try to see the same band every single time they can, and they've now seen said band 6 or 7 times in a 2-year stint because they've come around that often and they only see that band? Is there a motivation to prove that they are the number one fans of one band? All I ask really is when you create your characters for your festivals and you do all these different things for them, that you give them a good motivation for being there. Mind you, you don't have to state what the motivation is for every single person. There were 30,000 people at Inkcarceration each day. I would hate to read a book where it listed 30,000 motivations for going to Inkcarceration. But if you talk to a couple of people there, because it happens at a festival, you talk while you're standing there on the rail between sets. You talk while you're at the bar. You talk while you're in the merch line. You talk while you're waiting in line for the restroom or things like that. You talk at the after parties. During one of those times you're talking with other characters, you can find time to include some motivation. And including the little bit of motivation there helps make your characters seem real because they are truly motivated to be there. And if you're interested in finding more things like this and finding motivation for your characters, go to a festival. Ask people in line why they're there at the festival. Are they there because the festival is actually like 3 blocks from their house and they are like, why not? It's going on the weekend that I have nothing planned. Cool. Are they an individual that are traveling from the other side of the world to see them? If they are, why did they choose that festival? Those are all worthwhile things to ask if you go to a festival. And it allows you to find more inspiration. So have fun with that. Motivation's interesting because motivation is infinite. And if you really want to take it a step farther, you could probably find motivation at the festival for why someone is either good or bad. You can give them a reason for, turning a festival into a terrorist site. And now there's motivation for why they've turned evil. You can also give them motivation for why they've turned good. You can give them motivation for why they've turned their ways all around. Motivation, again, infinite. You have so much leeway when it comes to motivation, partially because you don't have to explain it all. You just kind of have to understand it yourself. And if you give a little bit here and there, it makes your character seem so much more realistic, and your readers will be able to relate. But with that being said, I had to start calling it a day, my friend. I'm getting a little too intense on this. But before I do let you go, I have another writing prompt for you. Tell a story about an individual who has decided to go to a festival to see one particular band. They have tried to see this one band many times over the years, but every time the band comes live, something happens that prevents the individual from going to the show. So they are super excited when the festival announces this one particular band. And now they've gone to the festival. They're all set at the stage for the one band to start playing when the festival announces that the band is not going to be able to play because of unforeseen circumstances. What happens next? Now, I don't care what genre that is, if it's going to be horror, fantasy, romantasy, thriller. I don't care what format, if it's flash fiction, long fiction, poetry. I don't care what you plan on doing. If you turn into a full-length story, sweet. If it's a short story that you submit for publication, awesome. If it's just something you write on a piece of paper and throw in the trash, cool. Just what I do care about is have fun with it and make it your own. And now I really do have to let you go, my friend. So if you enjoyed the content of this episode, please like and subscribe. And I do hope you have gotten a chance to check out my website, jinxedworld.com. That is JINKSDWORLD.com. Again, that's jinxedworld.com. And if you have gotten a chance to see it, you'll notice that there's a lot more content on there. More writing prompts, more stories about my adventures, and even pictures. So please get a chance to check it out. That being said, please be on the lookout for the next episode where Jinx gets a chance to explore the world of street art. If that interests you at all, I hope to see you tune in. Have a great rest of your day. I know I will.